Welcome to season 2 of Mental Attire, the Meaning series. Today we are going to be talking about the well-dressed paradox. I am Amy.
I'm Cleopatra.
And I'm Caitlin.
So, do we want to start out talking about what this paradox is about or why we're even talking about it? You want to
Yeah.
explain paradox too?
Yeah, so I'll share the description of paradox is a person or thing having seemingly contradictory qualities or phases. So when we decided to talk about this topic, I feel like the overview, the bird's eye view of it is that why we say the well-dressed paradox is because someone can be dressed to the nines, have very expensive clothing, have, all of that, wear all of that, and either be very be hurting inside or not have good character outside of how they talk to people, how they interact with people, how they go about life. And so we want to kind of talk about that of how what you wear does matter and how you present yourself to the world does matter, but that's not the only thing that matters, and that's why we talk about mental attire. So that's kind of a, like I said, bird's eye view of what we want to talk about.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would say we spend a lot of time choosing what we're going to wear on the outside. We think about colors, we think about style, a lot of times what represents us well, but how often do we think about what we're wearing internally? Because I mean, it's easy to kind of, oh, this pairs well with this, but what am I wearing on the inside? What am I wearing internally? And someone can be dressed, great on the outside, but what is happening on the inside?
To build on that, I totally lost my thought. Oh, we can, who are we dressing for? And how are we, like you said, how are we going about that? Of are we paying attention to what's going on? Are we working on what's going on the inside? Because our body, our temple, and also the clothing we wear, as you both have stated, is key. It plays a role in our life, a very important role. We are presenting ourselves to the world. Our body and our clothing is showing who we are, what we're about. That first impression, that first time, the first few seconds somebody sees you, how we behave, how we talk, how we act. Um, you know, our words are like 7%, and our body, our tone, our actions are like 93%. Our words can be very powerful and very hurtful also. That 7% can totally cause ramifications. They can cause rewards and they can cause consequences. And so, I mean, it's just mental attire. That's what we're all about, of what's going on in the inside. And it's okay to dress nicer to feel better about yourself. Yet, what are you doing to help yourself on the inside?
Hmm. Well, I think that, like you were saying, you have a first impression of a few seconds, whether you talk to the person or not, or you see someone either next to you or across a store from you or, wherever, you're going to make a first impression. And it's not about judgment, because we're not supposed to judge, but it is about you catalog certain details of how are they carrying themselves. If you see how they're talking to someone, you're going to notice what their tone sounds like. You're going to notice those things. And so making a good impression starts with how you are on the inside. And if you're, how do I want to say it? We've talked about this in other videos, but if you're clothing yourself mentally with, dignity and courage and kindness and all of that, then it will naturally manifest itself through your words and through your actions, and then also through the way you dress, because naturally you're not going to lean towards, whether you want to say, I don't know if you want to say scandalous or like whatever, you're not going to lean towards that if you're clothing yourself well on the inside. And so that also leads into, Mom and I have talked about this before, of two different people could be wearing a same piece of clothing And depending how they've clothed themselves mentally, how they are on the inside, what they think about themselves, what they think about the world, it could be represented two totally different ways. There's some things that are just there's not really a better way to, you know, represent it, but then there are some things that it depends how you are on the inside, how you're, what, like I said, your outlook on the world, and it can be totally differently represented simply because of that. And so I don't know if you guys have anything more to build on that, but
Yeah, well, and I would say it matters. Let's say our clothes, they change daily, okay? But the condition of our heart and our mind, it shapes how we live, how we speak, how we treat people. And so, we can dress success, confidence, and happiness on the outside. But if our internal life is neglected, it's eventually going to show, and people are going to see that.
mhm.
Yes, and I have, it's about our energy. It's about what, as you both have stated, excuse me, what's going on with our beliefs, our behaviors. Those are all infectious and contagious. The habits and patterns we have in us are infectious and contagious. And either we're going to spread more of the good or we're going to not. And our virtues, our vices, our addictions, our habits, all of this is, and you can't necessarily know that, but we also can be well educated enough with ourselves and with other people. That does not, like Cleopatra said, no judgment here, but we are supposed to be wise in how we're being responsible and accountable, and are we holding others? Because if we enable and support others to go down a path that is not wise,
Mhm.
then we're feeding that. And so mentally, what am I wearing? What am I believing? What am I living? And, we've talked about this many times in our previous videos. It's not about the cost of our clothing. It's not about where you get your clothing. It doesn't matter if it's hand-me-downs or Goodwill or a thrift store, or if it's really expensive, it still starts on the inside.
Mhm.
Well, I think, oh no. I was listening to you talk and it made me think of something, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh no. Oh, I seen a quote the other day, and it said, accept people as they are, but place them where they belong. Meaning, not judging them, not anything like that, but holding them accountable. So whether that, and this would be more for people that you're interacting with regularly, not just someone you're seeing and making they're making an impression, it wouldn't necessarily be for strangers. It could, but it wouldn't be as much. It's more about you can accept them, but that doesn't mean, like you were saying, Mom, enabling their bad habits or unhealthy habits. It's if I can help this person, show me how to help that person. God, show me how to help them. Or you have to make the decision of maybe helping them is not enabling them, and that's going to look different for every situation. So I'm not going to try to go into detail because no situation is the same. But I thought that was a really good quote because I think sometimes the acceptance of everyone as they are with no caveats and no boundaries, like wise, healthy boundaries, can be very misleading, and it causes a lot of confusion for people too, because then when you do set these boundaries that are wise and godly, you either feel like a terrible person or people, make you out to be a terrible person. So I think that's something to really think about and just reflect on. And even if you write it down and, kind of just let it sit in your mind so you can understand how that's going to be applicable in your own life. But I thought that was a really interesting quote, and I hadn't seen it necessarily phrased like that before.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think too, like going and your perspective can be an outpouring into others and can flow into their lives. And so, where you're asking yourself, am I wearing peace, or am I wearing pressure? Am I wearing humility or an ego or faith or fear? That could flow into someone else by holding them accountable. Scripture even says to clothe ourselves with humility, with kindness, with gentleness, with patience, all those things. It's funny because yes, we want to dress modestly, but a lot of times in scripture, it tells us, how to dress on the inside first, and that does, it flows into all of the outside, and that can flow into others' lives. Your life and the way you live it can flow into someone else. And so, there's tension. Sometimes the outside and the inside match. We have kindness inside, we dress, kindly on the outside, but sometimes they contradict. And so the goal isn't, to be perfect, but it's to be aligned with how God intended things to be, and how we should honor him and dress for him.
And that's what, we are all about, is with mental attire and everything we have with the Highway Channel and the Never Alone Way. It is about aligning with God's truth, God's wisdom. That's what it's about. It's when we're living the lies, we're either in the school of wisdom, the school of truth, or we're in the wisdom of lies, the school of hard knocks. And it's one or the other. Because as soon as we step out of wisdom or truth, we're in the school of hard knocks. That's how it goes. The lies start. There is no gray in between. That's what the world says. That's how society, the majority, are living now, and we can see what it's doing. Like you both were talking about, the accountability and the responsibility. We have to answer to God. We don't have to answer to, first and foremost, that is who we answer to. So having high standards, having non-negotiables, having boundaries, like you were talking about, we answer to God first and foremost. And gosh, there was something you had said else, Caitlin, that I was listening, which is good. Oh my goodness. You might have to just talk. You said something, and alignment with truth. I don't
You have
remember what
something
it
if
was.
you wanna think
Okay.
about it.
Go ahead.
Uh, One of the reasons that we picked Mindset Merch as it's the overall website. Obviously, we have a lot of different channels and stuff that we hope you explore, but Mindset Merch, we called it that because mindset is everything. That was our tagline. And it really is, because even me personally, from my personal experiences, when you have a negative mindset, you're thinking about the negative. You can't find anything positive to think about. And that doesn't mean it has to be fluffy or that you ignore things that are going on in life, or, reality. That doesn't mean you ignore reality. But it does mean you choose what you allow to actually affect you, and how you process those thoughts, and what you act on or you don't act on. And I think that's something that ties in with the mental attire. That's the meaning of it, is choosing your mindset. Are you going to clothe yourself with those I don't know if you want to say virtues, or what we were what we've talked about, or are you going to choose to let everything drag you down? Are you going to choose to let everything around you influence you? And that leads into that we are all influencing people, like Caitlin was talking about. You're either going to influence someone in a bad way or a good way. There's not really an in between. We like to think there is sometimes, but there's not. And so I would just encourage you to understand that regardless of what you're doing, you are influencing people. And I think that is one reason why it is important to be aware of your mental attire, is because that can help other people you might not even know it. You may never know it from somebody, but you have the power to influence people. And so I think that's one reason why it's so important to understand what you are mentally wearing and embrace it too. Like, you have that power. And so I think it's kind of something that we don't even realize that we have, and it's something that just starts in the mind. You could start today by simply saying, I'm going to change this one habit of the way I think, and that's all it takes to start.
Yeah, and I would invite you to reflect, what am I wearing internally today? What do I need to take off, or what do I maybe need to put on? Does my outer, appearance reflect my inner self, my inner life? Those are all good questions for you to reflect on. Grab a notepad and some paper and take some quiet time. I think that's really important. We rush through things in today's day and age, and we need to stop. We need to reflect and do a heart check.
To our quiet time, check out, we have a video and a sheet you can also print out. And so I thought of the two things. One thing, that came to me quite a while ago is treat others how God wants them to behave. That takes a lot of courage, confidence. It takes standing sometimes by yourself because of the way the world is, and treating others how wants them to behave, not how I or anyone else wants them to behave, but holding them accountable and responsible to that, because there should be no less, no lower. And then the other is, we've got our moments, our what they call a state, and we've got our brain, we've got our spinal cord, our nervous system, and our nervous systems these days are on overwhelm. They are exhausted. Our brain and our body is continuously going 24/7. We don't get that state of rest and relaxation, and it is extreme level across the world. And so mentally, you have to slow down. We may have a state, a moment, a temporary moment of peace and relaxation, but are our habits and our patterns we have to look at, because we have to look at the big picture. How are my days going? How are my nights going? How are my weeks? How are our months going? How is the family doing? The marriage, children. We have to look at all of this together too. And that can be a lot, but it's worth it. Mm-hmm. It's worth stopping. Live slow down, breathe, do some yoga, take a walk, take regular, even if it's a short walk, do some qigong, do a little movement, a little stretching, rest, take a nap, check out our What Truly Matters Most under the Highway channel. And we have a whole series for addictions and digital addictions, our Unplug movement. And we also have all of our Attire that we're sending out messages of, let's do this together for a change. Let's work together. Let's unite together, because healing doesn't happen alone. Restoration doesn't happen alone. We have to work together with this and help each other, Mm-hmm. So anybody got anything else, or you want to go to the takeaway?
I think you should probably go to takeaways.
Okay.
That means got to think of what my takeaway is. I would say that my takeaway kind of plays off of the title of, which is the well-dressed paradox, and to examine, I'm going to say why you dress the way you do, which will then lead you to examining your mental attire. It will lead you to examine how you're clothing yourself on the inside. So maybe, obviously going inward is the best first step, but that doesn't mean that looking at yourself from the outside and understanding your habits and what you're wearing physically, that channels right into it. And so maybe I would say as a takeaway and even kind of an action step is write those things down. Whatever comes to you, take that 5 minutes of quiet time and write down whatever comes to you relating to this. So maybe it's what you're wearing physically, what you're wearing mentally, habits that are good or bad, and then decide how you're going to change those for the better or build on the good habits you do have, because you probably do have some good habits that need to be built on, and the muscles need to be exercised, and then it compounds over time. So I guess my takeaway would be that it is up to you. Like we just said, it's not that you do it alone, but it is up to you to decide to make those changes. And so I would encourage you to just, like I've said in a lot of videos, be willing to do that and then actually take the first step.
Yeah, and I would say, the goal isn't just to look well dressed. While that's important, but it's to be well clothed on the inside. And I think true courage, true integrity is when your internal life and your external life, they match. They don't contradict, but they align with and honor God. And so I think that's really important when you're getting dressed in the morning, to also stop and think, okay, what are my intentions behind this? Am I honoring God with this? Am I going to please Him with the thoughts that I'm having in my head? And so I think that that's really important.
And we have a apparel that has choose the highway channel or choose to change, because, choices, not chances, are our destiny. like you said, human and eternal destiny. It's our choices, every little choice we make. So I would have the takeaway of building on what you both said. I would say look at the habits that you need to remove from your life, but choose what you can do to replace that during that time. So whatever that habit or vice or addiction or unhealthy habit is, choose what's one small step that I could do, even if I'm going to do that, do before it. You need to pick out what you're going to replace that time with. What you're going to replace, with our habits, we either engage in or we ingest. Those are the two categories, and they usually intertwine. What are you going to replace it with? Because if we just take it away, you just may pick another habit that's not going to be any better for you. So what can you do? So, well, we appreciate you being here. We are thankful for you, and please do reach out. No one nor family shall do life alone. And check out our YouTube playlist or channel, the Highway channel. And then also on our site, we have all the different movements, and we have some great resources, educational materials, and everything in the different areas. So do reach out and connect with us. Thank you.